And in all, it's like 20 or more of us at his funeral. Well, that's another thing. The dad that I was told is my dad, he had over 20 some children, and I didn't meet a lot of them till he had died at his funeral. But with all of them, I'm still the youngest. And with my mom, it's 8 of us, 2 boys, and my one of my brothers passed some years ago. And I have 5, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 5 sisters. And my 2 oldest sister and brother, they have different dads. And okay, so I went to stay with my sister when I was 15 in the projects, and she was living with a married man, and he was always trying to mess around with me sexually. But me being my sister's sister, I was not gonna do her like that. I could have, but she believed and suspected that I was having sex with him. I never had sex with him. I could have had sex with him. And she was telling other people that I was having sex with him. And that was building animosity between me and her. And she and him was always fighting. And I got so sick of her. She was always initiating a fight with him because he was cheating on her with other women and still had a wife and going around back and forth with his wife. And I was like, why is she always picking a fight with him and questioning him when he gets back, knowing she's gonna get the hell beat out of her? And they would have terrible fights. I'm talking about the glass and mirrors being broken, holes being punched in the walls, all that kind of stuff. And then next thing you know, they back in, like nothing ever happened. It was very toxic, very very toxic. And at this time, she had 2 small children. I think they was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. And every time they have a big ass fight, it usually be late at night, and we got to get up and run at the house because most of the time he'd be drunk, and he'd be shooting, threatening to shoot her and all this kind of stuff. And then she grabbing knives and all this kind of stuff and throwing tables and all this kind of stuff. And oh my god, I barely got into sleep because almost every day was a big ass fight. And every time she got the hell beat out of her. And we got to run away, run through the woods and all this kind of stuff. And he, a lot of times, he would be nice, but you never know how long the nice is going to last because next thing you know, something's going to set him off and he's going to be drinking and getting mad and want to fight her. He would never fight me, he'd always fight her. And she's initiating the fight. And that's the thing that she's always had a problem with every relationship she's had. These men that she get involved with, she's always had an abusive relationship. They always have a domestic violence situation going on. And she's the common denominator because she's always want to start the fight. And she always get the worst end of the fight. I don't understand that. And I still don't. Why would you start a fight with somebody you know you're gonna get your ass handed to you? Ugh. But anyway, um, the man she was involved with, he was nice to me. And he had underlying agendas. He wanted to get in my panties. Yes. And I never told my sister that. But I'm pretty sure she suspected it because of the way he was looking at me, and talking to me and nice to me and everything. She probably felt like something wasn't right. And he would always offer me money and give me money, and I wasn't gonna refuse the money because hell, I'm 15 and I'm practically homeless and a runaway. So yeah, I do need some money. So I wasn't thinking, he was grooming me, but in hindsight, looking back, I realized that's exactly what he was doing. He was grooming me, and every morning when she would go to work, she would get up and go to work, and she'd be gone by 7 o'clock. He he did work, but I don't know what kind of job he worked, but he would go to work later on in the day. And every time, I'm talking about almost every morning when she would leave and go to work, he would come in that room where I was sleeping, and he would try to put his hand up under the blanket and try to touch on me and all that. But I would always resist him. I was not cooperating with him. And I don't know how long she had been doing this and what provoked her to do this. And you all probably remember those long black tape recorders. I can still see that tape recorder in my head. I can still see that in my head. And I've always been a very spiritual person. And the spirit that particular morning told me, for whatever reason, to look under the bed. And I obeyed the spirit. And what did I see? I saw that tape recorder sitting up under the bed, and the buttons on the tape recorder was pushed down on the record. And he had been in that room talking nasty and trying to get me to have sex with him. And to keep the peace, and I know this looks like I'm guilty, but I know the truth and God knows the truth. So, you know, whoever want to think otherwise, that's you. You got the right to think otherwise. But in my 15-year-old mind, to keep the peace, because I didn't have nowhere else to go, and I didn't want to deal with them fighting, I recorded over the tape to make it sound like it was just nothing. And I'm pretty sure that raised her curiosity even more and made her mad, because of course she expecting to hear something, even if it's just me squeaking in the bed or getting up yawning and talking to myself. But she didn't hear nothing on the tape that's gonna make her think, oh, something really is suspicious about this, right? So I recorded over the tape to keep the peace. And after that, she started acting really, really nasty with me. And I was dealing with older men, and this one dude that I was dealing with, he had already been talking to me about moving to Florida and us starting our life over with. And I wasn't really into him like that. I was not into him, but I was desperate to go somewhere. I had to get out of there. And I was planning to leave and go with him to Florida. And before I was even able to do that, my mom, she had already started looking for me. And she had the police to start helping her look for me, and church members looking for me. And I really believe my sister really was having her hand in it. But she was pretending like she was on my side. And I really believe she was feeding information to my mom. And because my mom all of a sudden got more aggressive about searching for me and kept on coming over there looking for me. And then when she come over there knocking on the door, my sister tell me just go in the room, be quiet, go in the closet and be quiet. And if the police came by, my sister once again she would tell me go in the room, be quiet, go in the closet, be quiet. And if I was outside and saw the police coming, because they was coming around the neighborhood with my picture, my school picture, 8x10 school picture, showing everybody and asking them, have you seen this person? Have you seen this person? And then my mom, she was riding around with church members asking everybody had they seen me. And the people was telling me, oh, your mom and the police has been looking for you. And so when I would see them, if I was outside and I would see them, I'd run behind the building. I'd run and hide behind the building. And one particular day, they finally caught up with me, the police, and then they took me back home. And my mom, I thought she was gonna beat the hell out of me, but she didn't. But my mom was the type of person, she could just talk to you and you would, that was worse than getting your ass beat physically. Her talking. Okay. And oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. So she was like, you just like a little rat running around here just like a little rat. And so I was surprised she didn't beat the hell out of me. I was really surprised about that. But her talking was enough. That was just like getting the hell beat out of me. She beat the hell out of me with her words. Okay. And that was a long, long night right there. That was a long night. And she was telling me, well, you only got two choices. You can either go to reform school. Back then it was reform school, or she gave me another, or stay here and go to school or something like that. So I knew that I wasn't gonna be safe staying at home with my mom, because she was eventually gonna beat my ass. She was gonna find a reason to beat my ass for old and new, and I probably wasn't gonna survive her beat my ass. So I knew I was probably gonna keep on messing around, sneaking around with the men that I was dealing with. So I felt like it was gonna be safer for me to go to reform school. So I told her that I would go to reform school. So we made arrangements, to go to court, juvenile court, and I was going to tell the judge that I go to reform school. But the first time that I did go to court, I had already made up in my mind that I was going to run away again. And that's exactly what I did after I talked to the judge, and the judge was telling me, everything that I had to do, blah, blah, blah. And I agreed that I was going to go back home till it was time for me to go to reform school. But as soon as that bailiff opened that door for me to get out of there, and I walked in front of my mom. I walked ahead of her, and I had already made up in my mind. As soon as that police opened that door, I was gonna run like Flojo. I was gonna run till I couldn't run no more. And that's exactly what I did. I was running, running, and I didn't look back. I didn't look back because I didn't know if the police gonna be in a police car and behind me trying to catch me. I didn't know what to expect, but I knew I was gonna run until I couldn't run anymore, and that's what I did. So this time when I ran away to the dude's house that I was involved with, one of the guys, and it was so many people staying with him. Oh my God, toxic. Oh, whew. So anyway, all of that is to say, um, I could not trust my sister, and it was so many things that let me know that she could not be trusted. But I still love my sister. Even though it was clear and abundantly clear that she did not love me, and she was always setting traps for me. Okay. So we got past that, and I went to Job Corps, blah, blah, blah. So then, um, when I was 19, I was always trying to commit suicide because, I felt like, even though I knew my mom loved me, but it was very hard for my mom. And I felt like, if I wasn't there anymore, it would be easier for her. And, I was just sick of society at an early age. And I felt like I was a mistake. And my mom, she was always telling me and telling church members that, she didn't know she was pregnant with me. And, it felt like, I was a big mistake in her life. And I didn't like feeling like that. So it was a lot of rumors that the man that I was told was my dad is not my real dad. And I believe that because I never looked like my sisters. I never looked like my sisters. And this is not to be ugly, but in my opinion, my sister is not pretty at all. And I think she has been jealous of me because I am more attractive, especially if I put on a lot of makeup and, get a nice wig and all of that. And she's been very jealous of that. And, I don't think we do have the same dad. And she used to talk a lot of shit about that in my face and behind my back. And I tried to really ignore a lot of that. But the older I got, it did sort of start getting to me because it felt like in a lot of ways she was being very disrespectful and condescending about it. Okay. And when when our dad, the one that I was told was my dad, when he died, my sister, now mind you, he had cancer, and it didn't matter. And we started to have I really didn't have a good relationship with him, a close relationship with him when I was younger. But he stopped drinking. The doctor had told him if he didn't stop drinking he was gonna die, so he took that kind of seriously, but it was almost too late. But the last I would say 3 or 4 years of his life, me and him grew a closer relationship because he was more coherent. He was not coherent when he was drinking, and he was very difficult to be around when he was drinking. So when he stopped drinking, I was able to accept him a whole lot better, and we would have great conversations, very deep conversations. And he would talk. I don't know if I should say this, but he would talk about her. And that's the thing that's been a big thing in my family. I don't know who the hell started this, but my dad, he would talk about her to me in some very disparaging ways. And I don't think he meant any harm by it, but he was telling the truth about her, you know. And I remember this one day he told me, because he used to mess around with prostitutes, and he told me, he had more respect for the prostitutes. At least they got money. My sister, she was out there just fucking. She was just out there fucking. She wouldn't get no money, and then she come over there asking him for money. And it was very blunt the way he said it. He probably, didn't mean any harm by it, but I can understand what he mean by that. Okay. But my mom, like I said in the last video, and it's no disrespect to her, and I love my mom, and maybe this is just a character flaw that she had, and my dad too. But they would talk to one child about another child, and that built a lot of strife and division within our family. And that was a very dysfunctional thing to grow up in, and that was just a normal part of our life. And that would cause me to stop talking to certain family members, because I'm listening at them talk shit about me. And then when I confront them about it, depending on what it is, they say, "Oh, you crazy, you mentally ill, oh, you just imagining things, you just think somebody always talking about you." Hell, I did hear you. And playing mind games like that, it made me really mad, because I'm hearing you talking shit about me. And my mom, she would always be like, "Don't tell such and such I told you this, but such and such and such and such." And then she come to me and talk to me about such and such. And she just got through talking about me and dragging me with such and such. And I'm like, wow, really? And that was very hurtful. That was very, very hurtful. And I believe that really created a very dysfunctional atmosphere that led to us not talking to each other now. And when my dad died, my sister, she went over there putting her name on his chair and his this and his that. And I'm like, wow, he has over 20 some children. You are not the oldest, number one. You are not the beneficiary of his estate. He didn't really have shit, but it's the principle. It's the principle. And I didn't want none of his stuff, but I'm looking at her taking the opportunity to go over there and violate him like that. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. And mind you, she has not helped him buy none of that stuff. And the whole time that he was in the hospital, I dropped everything. Yeah, I was working, but I said, fuck that job. I can get another job. My dad, he comes first. He's a priority right now. He's sick. He needs his family. And my other sisters, they was, not all of them, but a lot of them, they was like, well, I got my kids. I got to do this. I got to do that. And these men that they was involved with, they was more of a priority than them coming to the hospital and sitting with their dad. And I thought that was real fucked up. I thought that was real fucked up. But I said, you know what? I cannot pay attention to them. My dad is what this is all about. And it's no way that I'm going to desert him at a time like this. So I dropped everything and I went to that hospital and I stayed there with him. And it was very, very hurtful to see my sisters being so selfish. And you know, going through that with him, I would do it all over again. And, I could care less I'm losing time at work. I'm losing this, and I didn't care because I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm losing my dad. Every day he's slowly drifting away, and listening to him laying in that bed. This is a man that always was so strong, and he was a fighter. And laying in that bed, being weak and helpless, and calling my name in agony, and I could not do anything but just hold his hand and cry. You know, that was a lot. That was a lot. And then when he died, my sister, still being selfish, still thinking about herself. She should be grieving, but yet she's being roguish. She's going over there stealing the stuff. And then when my brother, some years later, when he died, same thing. She did the same thing. And he had a son, 5 years old. He cannot work. Okay. She can work and get her own stuff. But she's over there being roguish, stealing his stuff, and not thinking about nobody but herself. And then she lied to me after I found out that, somebody had been going in my brother's house stealing his stuff. She gonna create this false narrative and tell me, oh, somebody called me and they asked me